Hey guys, I'm Caleb. Welcome to my channel. Sorry it's been so long since I posted the second part of this project on YouTube, but I've been really busy building this new work shed here for all of my blacksmithing equipment. And I'm really proud of it, but it took a really long time.
Okay, so the time has finally come for me to start working on the habaki, and I'm going to start that using a piece of this copper bar stock here. So I'm going to start hacking that off and then forge it into shape. Alright, so I've hacked off a little piece of copper now, and now it's time to get it hot and start forging.
So I'm just working on forging this thing into a nice thin rectangular piece of copper here. So right now I'm just annealing the copper because I'm going to be bending it into shape, and I want to be doing that cold. So I'm just making sure the habaki is sitting perfectly flat on the tang of the knife.
So I think the thing's about 1.5 inches wide now, going this way, and I think now I just kind of gotta, clean it up with the grinder. Okay, so this is what the habaki looks like currently, and now I'm going to attempt to file in a little channel on the spine of the habaki so it'll lock in perfectly on the tang of the knife. So I'm going to file in only about 1/8 of an inch in. Okay, so before I decide to make everything, or make the ridge of the habaki flush with the spine of the knife, I think I'm actually going to kind of solder the connection down here. And then after I've soldered it, I'm going to kind of grind it away up to this line here. Okay, so I'm preparing to do a little bit of soldering here, so I'm just going to kind of clean the inside of the habaki area in here a little bit with the file, and then I'm going to use some sandpaper on this piece of copper here to clean it off a bit.
So I've used a clamp on these tongs here holding the habaki to keep the joint of the habaki tight while it's in the forge. So here I'm just cutting up a few pieces of high temperature silver solder to solder up the joint of the habaki.
So I filled that area in the joint there with flux and solder, and hopefully this works. So all of the solder melted, and it looks like it soldered up beautifully here. Okay, so the habaki fits on the tang about this far right now, so it's starting to look like I got to do quite a bit of filing to get this in the right spot here, so I'm going to get to work on that.
Yeah, getting this thing to fit right is actually quite a time-consuming process. So this is a copper coupler that is actually pretty thick, but not so thick that I can't cut it with some tin snips. And I'm going to use this for the washers on the blade, also called the SEPA. Now I'm just cutting out the washers. And I'm just going to grind the washers into a couple of nice clean octagon shapes. And this is actually just a weird little piece of Damascus steel that I never actually used for anything, mostly because I didn't think the pattern turned out that great, but I think it'll be okay for a guard.
So I've drilled 3 holes in this copper SEPA, or washer, and now I just kind of gotta make it fit right on here.
Oh, gotta have my coffee. Oh, but I don't want copper in my coffee. So here I accidentally stabbed myself with this needle file. It hurt.
Alright, so we've got a nice tight fit on there with the SEPA, and now it's time to make the hole for the guard.
Alright, so here's the blade with all the fittings on it, and now I gotta start working on the handle.
Alright, I have 2 pieces of maple here that are about 6 inches long, and I've sanded one side so it's super flat and it'll fit together really nicely. Just going to line it up in the center here. Trace the outline of my tang.
Using a razor here helps ensure that the wood chisels out exactly where I want it. So I'm just using another washer here that will act as a spacer to account for the width of the handle sleeve that I haven't made yet. Handle sleeve is also known as the fuchi. So I'm not actually drilling all the way through here, I'm just marking the spot, but I'm going to take it to the drill press later. So I'm just mixing up some 2-part epoxy right now that I'm going to glue the handles together with. And I really like aluminum cans for an epoxy tray, just seems to be the perfect size. So after it's all glued and clamped up, I can just pull the tang right out of the handle material here. And then I'll just wipe off any excess epoxy that's on the tang. So as you can see, this is a pretty big block of wood for a handle, so I'm just going to trim it down some with this bandsaw here. So now I'm just working on making the handle nice and round. Alright, so this is what the knife looks like with a rounded handle finally. And for the collar sleeve and butt cap, or fuchi and kashira, I'm just going to make them out of these copper end caps. And these copper end caps come with a pretty aggressive chamfer on them, so I'm just kind of forging that out, making it like a little flatter on top. I do take them to the grinder a little bit as well. So I'm just making the handle thin enough here so that I can fit the fuchi and kashira on it. And I want the fit of this to be fairly loose because I also have to wrap some ray skin around the whole handle. And the fuchi and kashira actually has to go on top of the ray skin. Alright, so I've got the handle thin enough to fit the kashira on the end there. And now I'm just carving a hole for the tang to go through on the fuchi. So here's the blade with all the fittings on it, and as you can see, I had to re-profile the geometry of the point there. So now I have a lot more hand sanding to do. And now I'm going to get going on quite a bit of hand sanding. So I'm not going to show you me hand sanding the blade again since I already showed that in the other video. So now I'm just doing an acid etch on the guard. Here's our guard after the etch. I do end up resanding this and re-etching it to make the contrast just a little bit better. So I'm just doing a little bit more file work on the habaki. So I'm just carving a hole in the kashira for the handle braid to go through. And I'm also carving a little channel on the end of the handle for the braid to go through as well. So I've got some ray skin here for the handle wrap. Here I'm just attaching the ray skin to the handle with some contact cement. And I'm only going to sand the copper fittings to about 120 grit because I want them to appear a little rougher because I'm going to put a patina on them that will give them kind of like an antique-like look. So here I have some patina. I'm just pouring up here. And this patina, when I apply it, it'll turn all of the copper black. And I just let the patina dry a little bit, and then I scrub it pretty good with the green part of this sponge here, and that kind of gives it a very good antique finish. So here's all the pieces ready for assembly. And I'll admit I'm not really good at handle braiding, but I can always redo it again if I ever get good at it. Alright, so here's how it turned out, and I really hope you guys like it. It was definitely a ton of work. And here's the knife displayed in a nice fall setting. So thanks a lot for watching, you guys. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, please remember to hit like and subscribe.